So, Black Clover, for the lack of a better word, has been relegated to Jump Giga. Now, for those of you who haven't been reading the news, Jump Giga is like Shonen Jump, except instead of your favorite manga coming out every single week, it comes out every 3 months. So much in the same way that anime has a fall, spring, summer, winter season, Jump Giga has a fall, spring, summer, winter edition, meaning that Jump Giga is released 4 times a year. Now, for those of you who are terrified at the prospect of only getting 4 chapters of Black Clover a year, I mean, like, one, kind of fair, but also when the chapters come out, they're gonna be around like 50 pages long. And sure, is 200 pages less than the 780 usually given to you by weekly manga? Yeah, but at the same time, as manga readers, we'd probably be lying to ourselves if we believed that there was more than 200 pages left in Black Clover, period. I mean, Asta, in the most recent chapter, finished up his final training arc and is now currently engaged in combat against the last bad guy. And I don't think we're going to be served to an MHA, like, year-long final war arc. Black Clover is nothing but succinct and straight to the point when it comes down to battles. Sure, some battles can last 4 or 5 chapters, but genuinely, I really can't imagine a world where we get more than 4 to 5 new chapters released in Giga. And while obviously 15 months is a lot longer than any of us originally anticipated for Black Clover needing to end in the manga at least, as a lot of conservative estimates on a weekly release schedule assume that Black Clover would be done before the end of the year, Tabata, the mangaka of Black Clover, has been struggling with not only his health, but also health complications within his own family. So switching to a lessened release schedule is better for him, and therefore, we have to accept it. However, you can also look at the serious halting of Black Clover's release as a blessing. See, because here's the thing, when it comes to manga that I feel as though people were keeping up with weekly, I don't think Black Clover was that high up on the list. Unfortunately, Black Clover hasn't had an anime running concurrently with the manga now for a couple of years, which tends to make it fall out of the spotlight a little bit. But now that we're only getting new Black Clover every 3 months, there has never been a better opportunity to catch up, because the last battle of Asta and friends is against the strongest character that the universe has ever known. And today, I want to make a video introducing you to that character, because before we get the legendary showdown between Asta and the final baddie, it's probably best that you understand said final baddie. And once you understand said final baddie's motivations, powers, and backstories, you'll be able to enjoy the fight between Asta and them much, much more. So with no further ado, let's get into Black Clover's most powerful character explained. But before we get to explaining anything, guys, please, for me, like this video, subscribe to the page, and hit that noti bell. And if you want to see me become my most powerful character, guys, go ahead and follow my anime podcast, where me and Danny Mana talk about everything that happened in anime this week. It's available on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. Or if you guys just want to look like the most powerful weebs in existence, go ahead and head into my brand new merch shop, where you can get incredible t-shirts like the one I'm wearing right now, Madara and Donzo 24, that comes the Donzo Trump mugshot, all with the logo Keep Konoha great at the top, or you can get the t-shirt of the opposing party, Itachi Naruto 2024, all with Bernie Sanders Itachi. It's all available at otakusanonymous.net. So we've made it to the final arc of Black Clover. People believed that we had less than 20 chapters left in this story before it switched to Jump Giga. And while I think that's kind of an underestimation of how long the story is gonna be, I don't think it's the craziest ideology of all time. I mean, 4 chapters at 50 pages a pop only really puts us at around 15 regular-sized chapters. So who knows? Black Clover could be running for years yet. And for the years that Black Clover is going to continue running as a manga, Asta, the rest of the captains, the Black Bulls, the remnants of the Golden Dawn are all going to be battling against one man. Well, at least one man and his army of a few. That is to say that they're going to be battling against the devil Astaroth. Now, before we get too deep into who Astaroth is, how they appeared in the story, what their abilities are, and so on and so forth, it's important to note that when describing the identity and powers of the devil Astaroth, we're going to be heading into some pretty heavy manga spoilers. Now, knowing these manga spoilers isn't the end of the world. I'm not going to tell you if somebody dies or lives, and I mean, it's Black Clover, no one ever dies, but Astaroth's identity, which I will be revealing, is kind of a big spoiler. But this is your one and only warning. I'm going to try to avoid spoilers the best I can, but with content like this, it's all but impossible. Also, I'm not in control of the editing, so if he uses photos that are spoilers, that's not me. I have one job: be pretty and know things. I don't know how to do the clickety-clackities. You ready to go? I'm ready to go. Let's get into it. So for those of you who have gotten into the Black Clover manga at all, that is to say, those of you who have proceeded beyond the anime, you you may or may not have heard the name Astaroth before. See, in Black Clover, we all understand that the bad guys are the devils. It's a pretty straightforward idea. Devils live in the underworld. They try to escape out of the underworld to destroy the overworld. Easy as that. But within the underworld, in Black Clover, there's a thing known as the Tree of Qliphoth, which is tied back to Judeo-Christian ideology. Well, it's actually tied back to the Kabbalah, but a lot of Christianity is based off Judaism, so you get it. Now, Qliphoth and Judaism are symbols of evil or impure spiritual forces, and it's supposed to represent the exact opposite of the 10 Commandments that Jewish mysticism preaches that you live by. But unfortunately, it's actually way more complicated than that. Sephiroth are channels of divine creative life force and how it's passed down from the heavens to mankind. So like there's a first level, which is called Keter. By the way, my Hebrew is rusty at best. I'm aware I'm butchering pronunciations here. And Keter is kind of like the super conscious will of the universe. It's like the divine ideology of God. It's beyond human intellect. And thus Keter has to go through 10 channels until it can eventually be watered down enough that mankind is able to receive the knowledge. And that last step is Malchut. So the Tree of Qliphoth in Black Clover is supposed to act as a polar opposite to the Sephiroth. And the Tree of Qliphoth actually works somewhat similar to that of Sephiroth, but in reverse. That is to say that the Tree of Qliphoth is like a tree in the underworld. And the lower you go on the tree, all the way down to the roots, the stronger the devils get. And thus the underworld is split into a myriad of different levels. And every level you go deeper, the amount of magic presence and the level of devils that reside there gets that much stronger. Until eventually you reach the 7th level of hell, which has always been a very important number when talking about hell or the underworld or really anything that's bad and fiery. As Dante in Dante's Inferno has to pass through all 7 circles of hell, there's the 7 kings of hell, and so on and so forth. It's always 7 levels of the underworld. Now, the entire purpose of the Dark Triad arc is that the Dark Triad, Dante, Vanica, and Xenon, wanted to unlock the Tree of Qliphoth. But in order to do this, they had to pull off the Qliphoth Advent ritual, which requires the combination of dark magic and world tree magic to open all of the gates of the underworld, thus releasing all of the devils from the underworld into the overworld and basically spelling the end of the world. Now, we learned in the Dark Triad arc that all of the Dark Triad, the 3 that I previously listed, all had contracts with the highest ranking devils in the underworld. Now, when I say highest ranking devil, these are devils that exist in the 7th circle of the underworld. However, you can technically go one step beyond highest ranking devil. See, because on top of being the highest ranking devil, you can also be in charge of the underworld. Now, for the majority of the underworld's history, it was ruled by 3 devils. And now these are also the 3 devils who are usually in charge of some iteration of hell in Judeo-Christian ideology. And those 3 devils would be Lucifero, Lucifer, Beelzebub, and Astaroth. Now, Beelzebub, also known as the Lord of Flies, was originally derived from a Philistine god. And then he was worshipped in Ekrom, and then he was picked up as a major demon in Abrahamic religions. Abrahamic refers to religions like Judaism or Christianity. I mean, it also refers to more, but those are the 2 ones that you know. Now, in Christianity, Beelzebub is actually just another word for Satan, because unfortunately Christianity got rid of a lot of the cool demonology. But he's one of the 7 princes of hell, and he's meant to represent gluttony. Now, in Black Clover, Beelzebub wields the ability of spatial magic, which is used by people like Finral. However, obviously Beelzebub, as one of the strongest devils in the underworld, uses it at an insanely high level. Now, another demon that was controlling the Dark Disciples was Lucifero. Now, his Dark Disciple was Dante Zagratis, and Lucifero wielded the incredibly powerful gravity magic, which allowed him complete and total control over all gravitational forces, being able to put people under crushing amounts of pressure or make them float up in the air. Now, Lucifero or Lucifer are also in Christianity another name for Satan, would go on to be referred to as the King of Demons, and would subsequently become the final boss of the Dark Triad arc. However, the 3rd and final demon out of the Dark Triad arc that were said to be the rulers of the underworld wasn't Astaroth, but Magicula. Now, Magicula's Dark Disciple was Vanica, and Magicula's type of magic is curse warding magic, which allows her to create powerful binding curses. She can use curses to harm her enemies or to weaken spells, as well as using her magic to create beneficial curses that heal people or support them in their battles. Curse warding magic is actually one of the most versatile magics in the world, and this is why Magicula was able to rise to the ranks of one of the rulers of the underworld. However, this couldn't happen without Astaroth's disappearance. See, like like I stated earlier, for a long time, three devils ruled the underworld: Astaroth, Lucifero, and Beelzebub. However, Astaroth suddenly disappeared from the underworld, and therefore his spot was vacant and filled by Magicula, who would then go on to make Vanica her dark disciple and then manifest fully through Vanica's body and try and take over the world, but ultimately fail in the Dark Triad arc. However, before we go into talking about the final baddie of Black Clover, we need to still talk about the Dark Disciples for a little bit here. See, because here's the thing, all of the Dark Disciples actually had two different types of magic, and this is because once you make a contract with the devil, you get to hold on to your magic while also getting access to their magic. This is why people like Xenon Zagratis had access to not only spatial magic, but also bone magic, why Vanica had blood magic and curse warding magic, and why Dante had body magic and gravity magic. And therefore, I want to quickly go over what each of the Dark Disciples' own personal magic type allowed them to do. Dante's body magic essentially granted him the ability to do whatever he wanted to do with his body at the fullest capacity. He had complete and utter control over his bodily tissues, being able to repair and alter his physique at will. He could also become massive or shrink himself or grow additional limbs. Basically anything he wanted to do with his body magic, he could. Now, Vanica's blood magic is a bit more straightforward. She can generate and manipulate blood to do basically whatever she wanted to. It's like water magic but red. However, in the same vein, all puns intended, as blood magic but substantially cooler, Xenon's bone magic would allow him to generate and manipulate bones. That allow him to do everything from creating thousands of whip-like tendrils that can slash his enemies, to bone cages around him that are impervious to any kind of strike. And he's able to create and regenerate these bones faster than it can possibly be destroyed, giving him an incredibly powerful offensive and defensive weapon. So in these three Zogratis siblings, you have body, bone, and blood magic. And that's important because much in the same way as there was 4 rulers of the underworld, these aren't the only 3 Zogratis. In fact, these 3 Zogratis siblings have an eldest sibling, Lucius Zagratis, and Lucius Zagratis is the host of the devil Astaroth. See, Lucius was born in an odd situation. Lucius was born with 2 souls inside of his body, which I guess within the capacity of Black Clover isn't the craziest thing of all time, as during and after the Elf arc, many people in the Black Clover universe have either lived with or are currently living with 2 souls inside their body. However, within Lucius Zagratis' body were Lucius Zagratis and heavy manga spoiler coming up. This is the one we were talking about. So if you're away from the computer, I'll give you 3 seconds to hit the space bar before I tell you. 3, 2, 1. Julius Novachrono. Yes, that's right. Julius Novachrono is technically the final boss of Black Clover, which makes sense when you consider the fact that Julius Novachrono has been vaulted as one of the strongest wizard kings in existence. And his magical ability has always been seen with great fear and admiration. But for a long time, Julius's soul lived subdued inside of Lucius Zagratis. That is to say that Lucius was the more powerful soul out of the 2, and thus in the early days of their life, Julius and Lucius lived in somewhat harmony, if you can consider Lucius being firmly in control of the body all of the time. Harmony. Now, the Zagratis family as a whole had always been obsessed with the idea of devil hosting, and Julius, as the eldest, showed the best ability to host devils, and thus Julius was selected to be the host of Astaroth. Now, Lucius, after becoming the host of Astaroth, tries to convince Xenon to be a devil host like him, which Xenon summarily rejects until, of course, he's forced to kill his friend on a mission, and then entranced by Lucius's ideology, which is that he wants to destroy the entire world and kill everybody on it, but then bring the entirety of humanity back with undying bodies and rule over them as the final Wizard King, as he and humanity would no longer age and he would lead them into a utopian era. Xenon, either hoping that this dream would be able to bring back his friend or stop other people from going through what he was currently going through, decided to side with Lucius, beginning the Zagratis family line of becoming devil hosts for the rulers of the underworld, meaning that while the Dark Triad were all Dark Disciples, Lucius was the original Dark Disciple. And as Lucius wanted to become the final Wizard King after becoming the host of Astaroth, he decided to let Julius take over the body and moved them both to the Clover Kingdom. And it was with the power of the time magic that Julius technically gets from Astaroth that he was able to rise through the ranks of the Clover Kingdom and become Wizard King. See, because here's the thing, Astaroth's magical ability is time magic, and what kicked off the final arc and Lucius going on a rampage that would destroy the entire world was Damnatio Kira, you know, the guy with the scales, making the connection that Astaroth has time magic and our Wizard King has time magic, and time magic is rare. And thus, after being called out by Damnatio, Lucius takes over Julius's soul, because mind you, Julius's soul is still weak from the Elf arc. And now, once again, Lucius is in control. However, Lucius has a lot more than just Astaroth's time magic. See, after Lucifero's defeat in the Dark Triad arc, another devil by the name of Adrammelech stole Lucifero's heart. And after stealing Lucifero's heart, Adrammelech flew that heart to Lucius, or Astaroth, and Lucius would then go on to consume that heart, giving Lucius Lucifero's gravity magic. Now, the reason that this happened is because Lucifero completely manifested in Dante's body. However, just because he manifested in Dante's body doesn't mean that he was released from the lowest level of the Tree of Qliphoth, and thus the three devils that are in charge of the underworld are still down in the underworld. So unfortunately for Astaroth and Lucius, they haven't consumed the entirety of Lucifero's heart. So after the Dark Triad arc's conclusion, Lucius goes to the lowest level of the Tree of Qliphoth and defeats Lucifero and eats the other half of his heart, fully cementing his ability to use gravity magic. However, in addition to killing Lucifero, Lucius takes control of all the other devils in the underworld, as well as collecting his younger siblings and Morris. Now, this is important because as the numbers currently lie, how many different types of magic does Lucius have? He has time magic from Astaroth. He has gravity magic from Lucifero. But after retrieving all three of his younger siblings, Lucius does something not very brotherly. He takes all three of his younger siblings' magics and assimilates it into his body, giving him Dante's body magic, Vanika's blood magic, and Xenon's bone magic. So now he has time magic, gravity magic, body, blood, and bone magic. However, if you're paying attention, you're probably asking the question, well then, what is Lucius's magic? Don't all Dark Disciples have two different types of magic? And you're right, they do. See, the reason that Lucius Zagratis was so good at being a devil host is because of the type of magic he was born with. See, Lucius was born with soul magic, which grants a user the ability to manipulate the souls of themselves and others, which is a lot more broken than it sounds. In the Black Clover universe, the soul is referred to as the root of life. Therefore, things like life, spirit, and magical power are all associated with your soul. Therefore, if you're able to manipulate somebody else's soul, you can manipulate any of those three things I listed. By manipulating my soul, Lucius could cut my magical power in half, or cut my life in half. But he could also go the other way. He could increase my magical power. He could make me undying. He can also completely manipulate my personality and my beliefs. And even though he can't manipulate the memories and the feelings I might have towards somebody, it's kind of like Kabuto's usage of Edo Tensei in the 4th Great Shinobi World War. Well, if he was to manipulate my soul, I could be like Asuma seeing Team 10 and tell them how proud I am of them and how much they've grown. At the end of the day, my body will compel me to battle against them. But not because I'm being controlled physically, but because my ideology and the way that I feel about things has been shifted to Lucius's point of view. That is to say that even though I can remember the people around me, I now so fervently believe in Lucius's plan for the world that I would do anything to achieve it. To go even further beyond this, Lucius also has the ability with this soul magic ability to purify devil power. That is to say that Lucius is quite literally able to separate the art from the artist. Lucius can take the power of a devil, purify it, and incarnate it into a human. So that is to say that technically Lucius has the ability to strip a demon of all of its technical evilness, hold on to all of the magical power and ability of that demon, and then incarnate that power into a human. And he does this quite often, and these people are referred to as paladins. Humans who wield the power of devils, but without the devils whispering in their ear telling them to kill everybody. And the only drawback of this technique is that Lucius has to be physically touching somebody to alter their soul. So now, in conclusion, Lucius is in control of 6 different types of magic. He has time magic, soul magic, gravity magic, body, blood, and bone magic. But the body, blood, bone, and soul magic is important. See, by combining body, blood, bone, and soul magic, Lucius can create humans. And not only can he create humans, he can create undying, massively regenerating humans. If you cut these humans in half, they just regrow the bottom half of their torso. The healing that these humans are able to undergo surpasses anything that can be accomplished with healing magic. On top of this, it also makes Lucius the greatest magical healer of all time. He can regrow lost limbs for either himself or others. He can grant sight to the blind, and he can even take it one step further than this and make physical clones of himself, as he's able to with body, bone, and blood magic to create a body, and with soul magic to manipulate the soul of said body to do exactly what he wants. And since the soul is tied to emotions and personality and life and magical power, he can make one-to-one copies of himself by just generating new bodies and matching his soul into that body. So these clones aren't shadow clones, they're basically just him. And this is why Lucius wants to wipe out the entirety of humanity, because once Lucius has wiped out the entirety of humanity, he's gonna select the few strong people that existed while humanity was still around and reincarnate them into undying bodies. Then, by starting with all of the best people from humanity, he's gonna build a utopian society on the backs of all the reincarnated people whose strength and ideology somewhat aligned with his own. But even if your ideology doesn't align with Lucius's, when he brings you back, it will. So, in essence, Lucius is the oldest Zagrata sibling. He shares a body with Julius Novachrono, the Wizard King. Lucius has allowed for Julius to control the body for roughly a decade, being the Wizard King of the Clover Kingdom. However, now that Lucifero and all of his younger siblings have been defeated, Lucius decided that this was the time to take over the world. And he wants to kill off the entire planet and bring back only the strong, or those who agree with his ideology, to build a utopian of undying humans that rule under him forever. Through the power of time magic, gravity magic, soul magic, body, blood, and bone magic, he's now achieved a form borderline unbeatable. With the strength and ability of Julius Novachrono prior to him shrinking down to the size of a 13-year-old, while also having an ability whereby simply touching you, he's able to alter your soul and either make you subservient to his will or cut down your magical power by half. And on top of that, he's also able to purify the power of devils that he can put into humans who he's made subservient to his will, so that they essentially become his dark disciples. That is to say that they get the ability to wield the power of the devil that was purified and put inside of them, while also being able to use their own magical attribute at an all-time high level, making humans who weren't that powerful as battle mages some of the most dangerous opponents in the entire universe. And if all of that wasn't enough, he can clone himself. And I think you're starting to understand why Asta needed a final training arc. The abilities of Lucius and the army that he's built has made every other threat that's ever threatened the Black Clover universe look like child's play. And Lucius alone is one of the biggest threats that we've ever seen power-wise in new gen anime, which is why the scaling of Black Clover has gone absolutely mental in the last 6 months. What do you guys think? Now that you understand the strength of Lucius Zagratis, do you think that he stands a chance against other new gen bad guys? Do you think that he's an incredible final arc baddie? Let me know in the comments below. And while you guys are down there, please, for me, like this video, subscribe to the page, and hit that noti bell. Now it's time for Wookiee!